guys, so this video is going to come a little out of left field, right? It seems like a weird video to incorporate on my channel, but I just feel like I get a lot of questions kind of randomly over the last couple years about like advice on owning cats, adopting cats, and just general tips and, you know, specific questions as well. So I just thought I'd make one big video all about what I know and my experiences in owning cats and like my best advice and tips and do's and don'ts for you guys. Obviously, if you're not a cat person, you can skip this video. I just really wanted to have this information out there, so I have a video for reference for you guys in case any of you have questions about adopting cats. I'm also gonna talk about the stories behind my cats and like them specifically and their medical histories and like scares and like issues that I've had with them over the last, I think 8 years. This will be 8 years of owning them. So a lot of people like to believe that owning cats is actually easier than owning dogs, and although that might be true most of the time because I've never owned a dog, but I have dog sat many days in my life. Cats do require their own specific care, and sometimes they can be difficult, and it does take effort and money on your part, just like owning any animal. So don't think that you can just adopt a cat just because seems like the easiest animal to care for and the cheapest and things like that. It's still a living animal that you are going to be responsible for, and you need to know the proper care for it. Cats are actually very picky when it comes to eating, so much so that they will starve to death if they don't get the food that they like. Also, they're not thirst-driven animals, so a lot of times they like to get their water source from their food source, which is why they tend to prefer wet food. So we'll get into all of that and like do's and don'ts and specific to advice for those kind of things later, but first we're going to talk about my experience and why I feel like I can talk about this with such authority, if you will. I don't know. I have had cats all my life. There's only been like a year or so span of time where I haven't had a cat or my family hasn't had a cat. So it was probably when I was 20 to 21. So I adopted my cats in 2011. It's so scary because they're getting old. Also, I have volunteered at a cat shelter for about 6 months in the past, and that was really amazing, although it was really difficult to care for the feral cats and the, you know, ones that were sick or injured. It was really, really hard. There were some that were very sick. I did adopt my cats together, so I do get questions as far as like bringing in a new cat into an existing cat's household and tips for that. I don't actually know because my cats were adopted together. However, I do have experience in moving back in with my parents, having my cats, and they had adopted Otto at that point. And so we had to figure out how to get them to get along. And it wasn't easy because both Pepe, my boy cat, and Otto are alpha males. Look at my girl. She's so beautiful. There she goes. Okay, they don't want to be in this video, yet it's about them. Like the one time I want them to be in the video, they don't want to be in the video. Anyway, before we get into do's and don'ts, I do want you guys to be open-minded to adult and senior cats. Kittens usually don't have you know, an issue getting adopted. A lot of people want kittens going into adopting cats, and that's fine. I adopted 2 kittens, although Pepe was more in the teen phase. But be open to adult cats and senior cats because they are going to have a harder time to get adopted. All right, now we're going to get into specific do's and don'ts about adopting and owning cats. The first do is obviously do adopt, don't buy purebreds. The concept of purebreds to me and like spending that much money on a cat when there are so many cats in shelters needing homes is beyond me, because all cats are lovable and I don't understand this need for a certain breed. I understand if you think one breed or so is like cute and quirky and you want that one, but just be open to all cats because all cats need a home and need to be loved. And purebreds live shorter lifespans than mutt cats. Is that even a thing? I know mutts are dogs, but you know what I mean, like mixed cats. They generally live longer, so there's a benefit to getting a cat, adopting it from a shelter. I'll tell you the story about my cats in case you haven't seen the original video, which, you know, was 2011, so who has? So at that time, my ex and I decided to get cats together, and we were gonna go to the shelter that I had volunteered at prior in my life, which I volunteered there twice. Obviously, I just want to point out that I fought for them in the breakup and I got them because I was not about to give up my babies. So our first stop in adopting our cats was PetSmart. We were going to get some stuff for them, some, you know, litter box, food, things like that, things that you need for a cat. And ironically, they were doing an event there that day with a shelter. Of course, we looked because they were cats available, and we had held 2 cats total, and those 2 we adopted, and those are my babies. Now obviously there was something about them that I could not walk away from, and that just drew me to them, and honestly all cats are like that to me. I could have held any 2 cats and I probably would have been like, these are the ones. And I don't necessarily recommend going that route because you don't know the cat that well, you don't interact with it that long, we barely held them, so we were just like, let's get these ones. But I honestly could not imagine my life without them, so I do not regret that at all. The first don't is don't declaw your cats. Please do not take out their claws. This is actually very torturous for them, and people think it's just removing the nail, but it's actually a bone amputation, and it can cause a lot of pain and aggression in your cat. That is how they defend themselves, and especially if you're going to let your cats outside, which I don't recommend, and we'll get into why. If you're going to, definitely do not declaw your cats because they need that to survive in the wild. The next one is obvious, but do spay and neuter your animals. All animals need to be spayed and neutered, especially cats, especially if you're gonna let them go outside. Again, don't recommend it, but if you're going to, spay and neuter them. So let's get into why I don't think you should let your cats go outside. Now this seems it's kind of controversial because a lot of people think that they belong in the wild, they are meant to be outdoors. Your cats may want to go outdoors, and that's fine, don't let them. It can shorten their lifespan from 15 years to 5 years. It drastically shortens lifespans. There are too many risks involved with letting your cats go outside, whether it be cars, other cats, other animals, and especially if they're not spayed or neutered, they can obviously mate and have babies, and there's a huge epidemic going on right now with feral cats. Like, it's a real issue. Now the reason why I'm so passionate about not letting your cats go outside, not letting them be outdoor cats, is because I have been traumatized as a child. So my family always had indoor outdoor cats. One died when I was 6 years old. I watched it get hit by a car and die. Traumatized. I can still see it very vividly in my brain today. And the second incident happened when I was in high school. We had a cat named Frisky, which love him, miss him so much. And we don't know what happened to him. He either got in a fight with another cat or got bit by like a rat or something, but he had an infection in his jaw so bad that it had deteriorated his jaw, like completely gone, and it was so much so that we could not save him and we had to put him down. So this is why I'm very passionate. I could never let those things happen to my kids now, and I'm sorry if you get annoyed when people call their animals kids. I don't have kids, so they are my kids. I know it's not the same. I really know that. I'm an aunt, I know. Anyway, I just am so passionate about it because I'm so terrified of the outside world for myself, let alone for my kids. So the next do is do change their litter often and try to scoop it at least every other day. This is the one thing that I struggle with the most as a cat owner and need to work on the most because I am a lazy person. House chores usually go by the wayside, so that includes scooping the cat box and dumping it and doing things like that, especially because of the litter I use. It is non-clumping because it is made of newspaper, so it's very inconvenient to scoop. But obviously cats, you don't want to poop in a place that already has poop in it, so like cats are kind of the same way. They like a clean environment to pee and poop in, obviously. Also know if your cats like their privacy. Most cats do, so I recommend getting a hood over your litter box. You can buy them, you know, with the hood on them. This also helps in cleanup because if they miss the box or they like pee outside the box, it just goes on the lid and then, you know, it's not on your walls. Also, the hood is much better because you don't have to look at the poop while you're pooping. If it's in the bathroom. I keep mine in the bathroom because I live in a small apartment, but you do you. Next up is do not scold your cats. This is kind of a weird tip, but if you know, yell at them or spray them with water or rub their face in their pee or poop or vomit, which do not ever punish them for vomiting because that is completely natural for cats to do and they're going to do it a lot sometimes. But if you do those things, they are going to associate the scolding with you, not with the action that you're trying to get them to stop doing. They're skittish yet independent animals, and you have to be gentle and reward them for good behavior rather than scolding them for bad behavior. Now, I don't really have any advice as far as actually training them, because obviously they're not dogs. You're not going to be able to train them like you can a dog. There are tricks you can get them to do. A lot of people ask me how I got Pepe to do the meerkat trick, and I honestly don't know. He just started doing it one day, and now it's a whole thing that we do. I have been really lucky with my cats though, as far as like damages and things like that. They haven't, you know, clawed up a lot of things or peed outside the box or anything, or pooped. Although there are times where they get poop like stuck to their butt and then they run around the apartment and then it ends up on the carpet. I've definitely dealt with that. I have had to pay $400 to replace carpet in an old apartment, the first apartment I lived in with them. At the time, Pepe was really annoying at night, and because they are pretty much nocturnal animals, so Pepe was just rambunctious. He always wanted to walk on my face. So I thought, hey, let's sleep with the door shut. If you have cats, you know you can't close doors in your house. It's not gonna happen. So of course they dug a little hole in the carpet under the door to try to get it. Do provide them lots of scratchers and things to sharpen their claws on. My cat's favorite are like the cardboard scratchers. You can get them just like in a rectangle. I get the double wide ones because I have 2 cats. They go to town on those. Those I recommend you can get for really cheap at like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods, and Ross. Don't ever buy them for $10 at Walmart or pet stores, because that is a ripoff for a piece of cardboard. Don't use plastic water bowls. And I know that's kind of weird, because as long as you're giving them water, that's great. But just like humans aren't meant to reuse water bottles constantly, we shouldn't be refilling their water dishes in plastic. I prefer to use ceramic dishes, and I usually have multiple around the house. So I have one in the bedroom and one in the dining room. They like multiple access points to water. Both of them drink out of the toilet, and I just let them do their thing, because as long as the toilet's clean, it's fine. Skimble likes to drink out of the bathtub after we've taken a shower. She just licks the ground of the shower. Also, cats like to have their water and food sources separated. They don't like to have them right next to each other, unlike dogs. You know, you can just put them on a food mat and a water mat and you're fine. Cats, you want to separate it if possible. If you have them, I mean, most people have the floor space for a little thing of water somewhere. Usually their food source in the wild is a dead animal, so they see that as a contamination to water, so that's why they don't like to have them so close together, because they won't want to drink that water. So try not to keep them in the same room as possible, or if you have to, just have them be like separated kind of far away. Next, do brush your cats. So especially in the spring and summer, especially if you have a long hair animal. As they shed in the warmer months, they're constantly grooming themselves, and that therefore they're swallowing their fur a lot, which will create lots of fur balls, and you don't want to have to deal with that all the time, and you don't want your cats to have to deal with that. That's not pleasant for them. So try to brush them on occasion. You can obviously use like a normal kind of wire brush, or they make these gloves that are rubberized that you can just like pet your cat with. Don't ignore your cat when it comes to you for attention. So obviously cats are very independent animals. That's one of the things I love about them. They aren't needy, they're not constantly in your face, and they just kind of do their own thing. But when they do come to you, try to give them love, because they do need human affection. They need affection from their owners, and they will tell you when they want it. Although let's be real, we all give it to them when they don't want it. Next, do provide hiding spots for your cats, especially if they're skittish. My girl cat Skimbleshanks is very skittish and hides from pretty much everyone, even Ryan. We've been together for almost 6 years. She's still not the biggest fan of him. Now, I've created a lot of different hiding spots for her, so she never feels like cornered or, you know, limited or anything like that. I have one actually right here, down here. I need to replace it with something cuter because it's a cardboard box, but it works for now and she uses it. I have one in the closet, I have one in the corner of our bedroom. She also goes in the kitchen cabinets a lot, and I just kind of let her do that. I know it sounds like you should train your cats. I know not everyone's gonna want to let their cats go into the kitchen cabinets or climb on the kitchen table or, you know, climb on things, but I just let them do what they want to do because they are indoor cats, and I feel bad that they are probably bored a lot of the time, so wherever they want to go, they can go. They live here too. And on that note, do not try to make them be more social when they are in their hiding spots. Don't try to pull them out and try, you know, to get them to come out of their hiding spots. They will come out when they want to come out. Now, if you follow my advice and keep them indoors, and they are indoor cats, they are bound to be a little bit bored. And when they get bored, they eat food and they gain a lot of weight. Monkey. People get confused, by the way, when I say Pepe and Monkey. He has 2 names. Pepe Monkey. So I recommend playing with them regularly. This helps give them exercise that they need because they don't get it from, you know, being outdoors. I do have 2 cats, which I highly recommend getting 2 cats. They play with each other a lot, chase each other around, and they will play with themselves a lot of the time, but not all the time. And so you want to keep them stimulated by, you know, getting their hunting reflexes activated or something, whatever you want to call it. Because they still need to use those, you know, traits that they have that would normally be utilized in the wild, but there's no need for them anymore, but they still like to use them, hence why they sharpen their claws and things like that. So now I kind of want to get into a deeper subject of my cat's health journey, which has been just that, a journey, man. You're bound to have incidences in your cat's life where you have to take them to the vet. Sometimes it can be very scary and very traumatizing for you and the cat. My biggest regret that I ever had about my cats was when I first got them. Actually, I think it was closer to the beginning of 2013, end of 2012, so I'd had them for about a year and a half, and somehow they got ear mites, and those are horrendous for cats to have, and I felt so bad. I could not afford to take them to the vet for a little while. I'm being very real with you guys. So I learned a lot from that whole experience that cats cost money. So if you're going to adopt any animal for that matter, make sure you have at least a credit card or money put away, something just like you would have for yourself for an emergency. If you can, you would want for your animals as well, because they are a living thing that you are now responsible for, and you don't want to be responsible for their misery. So anyway, back to the ear mites. Pepe's got extreme to the point where he like scratched his ear pretty raw and bloody, and it was very sad. Finally, I was able to take them to the vet, spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars getting the treatment and everything. He had to go into a cone, and that was the first time he was in a cone. That was also the only time Skimble has ever had any issues where I have to take her to the vet. She's been a very good cat. Pepe, not so much. I've had some smaller issues with Pepe, such as he ate a lily once, which I need to mention that, by the way. You need to research houseplants, flowers, essential oils, cleaning products, things like that that are toxic to cats and dogs, all animals. A lot of times cats will want to eat your houseplants. Make sure that they are non-toxic in the cases that they do. I will link up an article down below that goes into houseplants and ones that are safe for cats. Essential oils, also not healthy for cats. They don't like the citrus family or the mint family, besides catnip, which is part of the mint family. It's ironic, I know. Anyway, so he ate a lily before, and those are very toxic to cats. He was fine, thank God. He's also had an eye infection, which the vet thought maybe that he and Skimble were roughhousing too much, and it like scratched his eye, so I had to do some eye drops for a while. Not a fan of that. And then finally, that leads us to his foot incident, which is hands down the most expensive issue I've ever dealt with him, and also the most traumatizing. So it started with Pepe grooming one particular foot. I don't know why he started grooming it. He just was going to town on this foot, and it became raw and bloody. I had to keep taking him back to the vet to try to figure out, narrow down why he would possibly be over grooming one foot. I'm kind of happy that they take him away into another room where it's like quiet and I don't have to witness his pain. He does not like the vet. He used to do really well here, and then when he had his eye problem, that's when things changed. He doesn't like them here. I changed his litter to a natural newspaper that's dust free, and like I said before, it's a newspaper. We thought maybe it was the dust in the litter that was causing irritation on his foot, and he was just annoyed by that and grooming it, but it probably wasn't that. We also put him on a skin sensitivities prescription food, which that was annoying in itself, because then my cats were eating 2 separate foods. They each just wanted to eat each other's. I'm losing my voice. I've been talking so much today. So I had to wake up maybe 4 to 5 times a night to feed them. That's how spoiled my cats are. They're like infants. They're like actual children, actually. And then the most traumatizing part of this was for months and months, it was actually going to be long-term until I was like, I can't do this long-term and I'm gonna wean him off of it. And it was the syringe that I had to shove down his throat to give him medicine every day. It got to a point where he would run from treat bags, like from treats, because he thought that is what is causing this discomfort, because he knew that was my trick to getting him to come out from behind the couch and stuff to get his medicine, was the treats, because he's very food driven. To this day, he's still wary around treats, and it breaks my heart because he loves treats. The vet had actually diagnosed him with a type of OCD in cats, so we still don't know to this day what has caused it or what did cause it. She thinks at some point he will relapse, which makes me nervous. Ultimately, he was in the cone for 9 months. And that is so tragic to me. That's almost like animal abuse to leave him in the cone that long. It was not full time though. I would give him times without the cone, like monitored, to make sure he wouldn't lick his foot, and also so he was able to wash a bit, because I just felt so bad. And then how it all ended was I would give him longer and longer times without the cone, and eventually it became unmonitored times. He could go without it all night, and he just eventually stopped licking his foot. Now this really like took a lot out of me last year, because he had been in it for so long, and no matter what was good in my life, there was still this situation looming over my head that something was wrong with Pepe, and I had no idea how to fix it. I had literally tried everything. I'd spent hundreds of dollars and couldn't figure out how to fix it, and it ended up just being like an OCD thing. And so hopefully he doesn't relapse later in his life. He's been healthy ever since, except now he is very overweight and obese for a cat, and it makes me very sad. He's also had some digestion issues in the past, which is somewhat normal for cats. If they are vomiting up their food a lot, usually it's because that food they can no longer digest. It does happen. You just have to switch up their food. But let's move on to their favorite snacks now that we're on the topic of food. So Skimble, my girl cat, cannot or will not eat land animals. She's just a pescatarian cat. What can I say? She's always been that way. She only eats seafood. Very picky of a cat. Luckily, Pepe will literally eat anything, which you can tell obviously by looking at him. I highly recommend the tuna for cats from Trader Joe's. They go nuts over that. It's like crack to them, although it's very, very smelly. So be careful of anything it touches, because it's gonna smell like tuna for a while. Their other favorite snack, and one of my favorites to give them, is I call them Go-Gurts for cats, because they're little tubes of wet food that you like squeeze up into their mouth. I just like the way you administer it to them. It just feels like bonding time to me. It's very cute to watch them eat from it. And then as far as hard, like crunchy treats, which I do recommend incorporating, especially for their teeth, because you could brush their teeth. I don't brush my cat's teeth. Maybe I should. But the Greenies treats for dental issues are really good. They're big enough to where they're forced to chew them, which I think is good, because Pepe will just inhale treats, just like. But the Greenies, they love them. They love the flavors. Obviously, I only get the seafood kinds because Skimble. As far as toys, it really depends on your cat. Obviously, they like non-toy items. Like Pepe loves bubble wrap for some reason. Skimble loves pens. I let her play with a lot of pens. But as far as cat toys that are actual cat toys, the Yow catnip brand is amazing for toys. Both my cats love the Yow toys, even though Skimble is not a huge catnip fan. She just goes nuts for this banana that we have. I don't know why, she just loves it. So those are kind of all of my tips and tricks, do's and don'ts, advice, and my personal story in owning these cats, and my backstory of owning cats in the past. And yeah, all the information I can pretty much give you for now. If you have any specific questions or want to know anything further, I could talk about this all day long. So if you want to leave it in the comments, hopefully I can get back to you about it. Also, if you have any tips of your own, any advice for owning cats that you've learned over the years and you want to share it in the comments, I would love that. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.